Okay, so can you talk about more about your philosophy that you're developing right now? Because it sounds like you're kind of you have some of your identity established, but as little like us young guys, like there's a lot that can change in like the next few years.
Yeah, and I mean, I've definitely experienced that in the past 4 years. Like, just now, I think this group is finally starting to come into our true sound as a group. Like, even this past record, I don't think is a real encapsulation of what our sound is like. Maybe we had a couple songs on there that I really feel like shows what we sound like, but I still think we're still finding our way into what we want to be. But I think we're finally starting to reach that point with the songs we have and what we're performing. And so for this next record, I really want to try to expand on that idea of like, all right, now I know what I want this group to sound like. And ultimately, I think that idea of what we're going to sound like is always going to be constantly changing because with the writing, you're always hearing, oh, something new like, hey, I want to go in this direction. I really like it. And you start building off that idea, some new songs in that direction, and then maybe you get pulled in a totally different direction with a new sound that you're trying to chase.
Hmm.
And as a writer, I think you need to be open to that because I think if you just set your mind on, okay, I'm only going to write this and nothing else, I think you're easily going to burn out so fast. You're going to have a hard time coming up with new material. I really think, you know, yeah, it's good to have an idea of what you want your sound, but also being open to letting new ideas take you to new directions with your writing and your sound as well.
Hmm. I see. Does our in this consideration for the sound you have for your group, how does that affect your selection of musicians?
That actually affects it a lot because I have talked to some people like, hey, our normal saxophone player can't make this gig. Do you want to sit in? And they've straight up told me like, I'm not I wouldn't be comfortable because, all I know is I'm really only good at bebop. I'm only good at jazz language. Like I'm not gonna feel comfortable playing this music,
Hmm.
which is interesting because there's a running joke in the group that I write like notoriously easy chord progressions.
I don't
But
know.
you find out, hey, just because the chords look easy, again, this is something people look down on. Like, hey, those are just easy chords. Like that's nothing compared to bebop. Just because they're easy doesn't mean it's easy. It's a whole different style
I
that we're
think simple
playing.
might be a better way to describe it because it sounds like, I mean, there's a lot of simple things in music that are definitely difficult to play.
Yeah.
You know, some of the simplest concepts are like just like very tough to execute.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the musicians you select, are they are they intimidated by the lack of complexity?
No, or at least the ones I have now aren't because they're really comfortable with what we play and their playing can fit to that style
Mm,
really well. I have played with people where, sometimes it sounds too much like, bebop. The language doesn't quite fit the style that we're going for.
right.
But the group we have now, they can easily go, and that's what makes the people I play with so great. They can easily go back, hey, we want to play some burning, swinging stuff. They can throw down some Charlie Parker. They can throw down, some Clifford Brown, whatever. But we want to go over and do this stuff with the group. Man, they can create some really colorful, masterful, melodic solos that are a lot more, I wouldn't say as much scale based or linear as maybe you may see in jazz, but have a lot more melodic contours and aspects like that to the solos. So
Mm.
the style definitely does dictate a certain type of musician, and it's not easy as many people may think by just looking at chords. Because maybe it's just a 1-6-2-5 in your
Yeah.
chord progression for solos. Yeah, you can play over a 1-6-2-5, but you have to play to the style as well. And that's what makes a good musician good.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun time. I'm not gonna lie to you. That sounds real fun. Um, so are sounds like your musicians are all pretty versatile.
Yeah,
Whereas you compare to say like Duke Ellington's band, you have a band full of specialists where he kind of treated them like instruments. Do you have some kind of do you experience that as well?
absolutely. When I'm writing, I know who's in the group, so I will specifically write for the players in the group. Maybe at a certain part, okay, I know this person has this certain sound with their instrument, and it really fits what we're trying to do here, so I'm going to write this part for them here. Or if I know, man, I really want this type of expressiveness in a solo at this point, I'm going to specifically write in a solo part for this certain person in the band. So definitely it knowing who I have in the group and how they play, I definitely do write. I just don't write charts. I write for the group and for the people that I have in the group.
Awesome. Hold on a second. So at this point, so what is when you're writing? Say you're walk us through what's happening in writing a song beginning to end.
So first I want to go out and preface this too. All the songs I write, I always write for the composer name, Noah Brooks Coalition, because I may start the writing process, but ultimately by the time the tune is complete, it's a group process and everyone in the group has added contributions to it. But so how it typically will start, I'll be sitting down and one of two ways. Either I'm sitting down at the piano and I just either sing a melody to myself that I like or play something on the piano. I'm like, oh, cool. Let me record that real quick. Let me try to expand on that. Or what a lot of times has happened, I'll just be driving in the car, blasting some music with the windows down, and I'll hear just a tiny portion or something in a song. I'm like, oh man, that's really cool. Let me get home real quick and go to the piano, figure that out, and then I have that little portion that I'm going to work with. So it really just starts either way with a tiny melodic idea
Mm-hmm.
that I like. I'm like, okay, let me see how I can build upon this. So once I build upon that, then I go in about throwing in the chords. And after that, I'm like, okay, I think this is going to sound good. So I like to call that like the skeleton of the composition. Like it's fully written out, fleshed out, but it's not going to be the final product. So I bring it into rehearsal then. And at that point, then we have our two horn players will come up with suggestions to make the changes to the melody, or sometimes even the melodies are completely written by the horn player.
Mm-hmm.
Like a couple songs off this record, I just came up with the chord changes, and one of our horn players just came up with the melody. I'm like, that's really good. Like, let's roll with it. So sometimes I don't even come up with the melodies for these songs.
I got you.
But once we have that skeleton of a composition done, we'll bring it to rehearsal, make changes to the melody. Then our piano player normally always has a change to make to the chords.
Mm-hmm.
And 11 out of 10 times, it just makes the song sound so much better and so much more refined. I'm like, man, that's killing. Make the changes in the part. So then we got this killing chord progression, great melody. And then if we're adding lyrics to it, I'll send it off to my friend who sings with us, and she'll 9 times out of 10 do the lyrics for me. I think she wrote over half the lyrics on the record.
Mm.
And so she'll come up with some lyrics to an already written melody, and then it just all comes together. And it's really a group effort that on my part just starts with finding a little melody I like, expanding upon it, bringing it to the group, and then it really takes on a life of its own with the group.
Oh man, that's cool. There's two ways I want to go on that. One I'm gonna get to later, but what I want to talk about right now is it seems like there's a lot of co-writing going on. Even though you might start pretty much everything, you bring in your musicians, your collaborators, then use their strengths to add to the tunes.
Yeah.
Can you discuss what co-writing is like in that group?
Man, Co-writing has saved my butt so much in this group. It is fantastic. I absolutely love it. I'll bring in an idea that I really like, and I might think, oh man, this is really cool with these chords. Then our piano player will be like, maybe not. Let's try this chord. And I'm like, he plays. I'm like, dude, let's roll with that chord. That sounds so much better. He's like, you like it? I'm like, yes. Put it in the part. We're going with that. And he's just so masterful with some of the stuff he can come up with at the keys and the chord progressions. And then same with the horn players. Like, to me, it blows my mind that I can just come with this. Like, for instance, our title track, Off the Record, In the Night. That was me just fooling around at the piano, and I found 4 chords I liked.
Mhm.
And I brought it to our trumpet player, and I played it for him. And he just comes up with that beautiful entire melody off rip. I'm like, dude, I think we got something with that. So we went back, wrote it out, and the melodies those two can come up with just blows me away. I think they can come up with a lot better melodies than I can. So getting to work with the group as a whole really refines and makes our music like 10 times better than if we rolled with just what I solely wrote.
Mm. Oh, that's pretty interesting. So what a lot of band leaders would do, or just like some of the more advanced ones, once they know they're musicians, they kind of use their strengths in their songs. Which you kind of took a step beyond that and bring their strengths directly into the writing process instead of into consideration in the writing process. And I'm going to contrast you with me because I'm a control freak. Now, like, follow me with this. I'm a control freak. When I hear something in my head, I want it, and if I call somebody to give it to me, they better give it to me. You though,
Hey, I'll say there's certain points where, hey, you need that sometimes. Like, you have something set in your head, like, no, man, just play what I wrote, please.
yeah, you though. It seems like I would say I'm like, and if we were in an RPG, you'd be leading a party. I'd be a solo player.
Oh yeah, I feel like
And there's a lot of good loot to be had.
yeah,
There's a
and
lot of
from
good
both
stuff.
both ways, there's a lot of good to be had, and I feel like I'm more so that way with this group because I know what they can bring to the table and what they have to offer. You know, maybe if it wasn't this group, if it was other people who, maybe not. Maybe it would be, hey, no, let's play as written. I like what I wrote. But with this group, I know they can just improve the music so much that I'm more than willing to go in open-minded to have what I wrote changed. And a lot of times I'm going in there to have them change it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come in and be like, hey, I like this, but I feel like it needs to go a step further or it's missing something. What do you think we can do to help further it? And they'll come up with some great idea that works perfectly. So a lot of times I'm going in there looking for those changes to what I wrote.
Yeah, that's awfully mature for a writer your age, man. Sometimes it takes a few years for people to reach that point. Glad to be talking to you about that.
Yeah.
So, more on collaboration. If there's any musicians out there right now, let's expand it. Alive or
Okay.
dead?
Alive or dead?
Alive or dead? Who would be the first person you would call to collaborate?
Oh,
They would never say no.
we're talking with the No Brooks Coalition.
Whatever you want.
Oh man,
Possibilities are endless. So,
I have to pick just one.
just one.
Just
That's the
one.
only restriction.
Oh man.
The laws of nature do not apply here. Just
Oh man, he's really got me stumped with this. All right. I think with the nature of our music, I think I can get it down to maybe my top 3.
how did I know you're gonna say 3? I just knew it. Just rattle them off, man.
All right. Marquise Hill.
Okay.
I think he so eloquently blends jazz and hip hop so well. Would love to just have him a part of our music in any way. Number 2, obviously, I gotta go with Kanye. You know,
Mhm.
I got to. And number 3, and this may come as a shock, but I've actually drawn a lot from his music too, maybe his older music, Chance the Rapper.
Mm.
So especially so much of his older stuff really has that you can hear that maybe not so much blues, but more you can hear that jazz, the harmonic ideas behind his music and influence.
Oh, yeah,
And
definitely.
I love when, hip hop artists really heavily lean into that sound. And he did it so well. So I would love to like collab with him.
Oh,
Like that
yeah,
would be so fun.
Chance is pretty hip. I think on Acid Rap, he sampled Red Clay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, Chance is
So,
pretty hip.
he's hip to jazz, he's hip to it. So I'd love to collab with him.
Oh, man. So are you um doing any like working on any projects like this outside of Noah Brooks Coalition?
Not really, no,
It's just your main thing right now?
yeah, that's the only thing I really got going on for me, right now.
Okay. In school, have you done anything that kind of like maybe you learned from as a writer?
Actually taking this semester, an independent study with our guitar professor, Bobby Broom,
Okay.
we've been doing a lot of composing with him.
Oh, for real?
And yeah, and just getting to bring in and he's open to, like, whatever style we're writing. So bringing in songs I'm writing and working on them with him and having him go over, helping me figure out some other chord progressions I can use, having someone of his statute working with me on my music and helping me improve it has just been like and learning from that and, what changes he's making and why I should make that change in the music has just been unbelievable for
Is
my
this your
writing.
first time taking lessons from a writer? Or like, I guess,
Kinda yeah, this is my first time, like, actually solely working on my writing with someone.
okay. How is that like you talked about it, how that has been. Has this changed your perspective on like being self-taught than being studied as a writer?
Yeah, I think I definitely like being taught. Like, you can't don't get me wrong, you can be a great writer and be self-taught, but I mean, having the opportunity to, study with someone like him or, people doing independent studies here with Professor Saxophone Jeff Bradfield, like how could you say no to an opportunity like that, you know?
Oh, of course.
It's there's just so much knowledge to gain from people like that. So,
Um, were you of that opinion when you first started writing?
yes, because I hated almost everything I wrote and wanted to get better.
Oh, okay. Okay, so how should I say this?
I knew at least I guess it's a personal thing. I knew I wanted instruction. Some people don't need it, some people don't want it. I was one of those people. I was like, "Yo, this stuff I'm writing is like kind of trash. Like, I should really get some help on this."
Oh, I feel like we've all been there, and if somebody hasn't been there, they're probably skipped a few steps.
Yeah, yeah,
But us mortals, we need all the help we can get.
definitely.
So I want to wrap this up after one more question, and I want this to be a good one. So if you started over, completely drums, everything, delete all the experience you have, and you just know what you know now, what would you do differently?
I
Or
would take practicing so much more seriously at a younger age. You wouldn't believe how many times I've thought that question myself, and that's like I wish like I started drum lessons 3rd grade.
Mhm.
I wish I would have just put 45 minutes, an hour, a night, even just on weekdays starting at that point.
As a
Like,
sixth grader, oh yeah, then
yeah,
great.
like, man.
Would you started writing earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Even in high school, man, I just wish I took like I took it seriously, but like I wish I took it as seriously as I did now.
Oh man.
That would be game changer.
Yeah, I'm sure it would, but I think that little bit of regret kind of makes you who you are.
Yup. And
And
then
obviously, we
pushes
probably
you.
wouldn't be having this interview if you were like playing in Europe right now.
Yeah.
So at least
I'd
for
be
my
playing a world tour or
sake,
something.
I appreciate you
Yeah, man.
not
Thanks for
taking
having
it
me on
seriously.
too.
But okay, can you tell the audience where they can find you and where they can find your music?
Yeah, we are almost on all social media. We're on YouTube and Facebook. You can find us under the No Brooks Coalition. And you can find our music on Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp, where you can purchase the record.
What's the
And
name of the record?
In the Night,
In the Night. So
released
for
September 4th this past 2021.
Mhm.
So you can find it there. Spotify, Apple Music,
Apple Music,
Apple
iTunes.
Music, iTunes, YouTube, all that good stuff under the Noah Brooks Coalition.
Awesome. And you say you have another record coming out at some point, hopefully.
At some point, I don't want to say yes specifically, but at some point in 2022, we're hoping to have another record out.
Okay, so yeah, definitely. Everybody, thank you for listening in. Definitely check out our guest Noah Brooks. He's an awesome musician, awesome writer. And if you are able to catch him live in Chicago, definitely. Thank you once again. Night.